Alright, so today we're going to be making pulled handles for your mugs. Once you have trimmed your cylinder and it's flat and smooth, then we're going to be attaching a handle. I'm going to teach you how to pull the handle directly off of the mug. I want to show you some examples first. Over here I have a couple of examples. This is the one I'm going to demonstrate today. So this is a pulled handle that is a ribbon handle. So it's kind of flat and it's been pulled off of the top. But you can also pull a handle and kind of keep it rounded so it's not flat like a ribbon. But the other thing I did want to point out is that you don't always have to attach it at the top, that you can sometimes attach it at the bottom of the mug and pull it upward. So it's just some variations off the same process, but we're going to get started with this kind. So what you want to do first is determine where the handle's going to go. For each mug, that's going to be a different decision. I always tell my students, look for imperfections, because if there's a little imperfection, a handle could cover it. So when I look at this mug, I have a bit of a indent right there. That's an area I could cover up. But I'm also looking for some natural kind of curves, because I want my handles to follow those curves. So once you've decided where it's going to go, you're going to make two score marks. The first is going to be a slightly larger surface area, because that's where you're going to attach it and pull from. The second is going to be a little bit smaller scoring where the handle lands. Okay, so there's my double score marks. Now I'm going to set this to the side. And the next thing I want to do is have a little bit of clay. And what I'm going to do is roll what's called a lug, L-U-G, lug. You don't need a lot of clay to make a handle. We're going to be really stretching this clay and thinning it out, so you don't need a lot of clay. I take this clay and I'm going to roll a coil, but to make it a lug, all that means is that it's tapered. Tapered means that it's kind of like a cone shape. It's wider on the top and narrow at the base. As I roll this lug, I still feel like I have way too much clay. So I'm going to go ahead and take some off. Okay. This is more than enough for my cylinder. The next thing I want to do is, if I'm going to be pulling a flat ribbon style, I'm going to go ahead and flatten this lug a little bit. Just get it off to the kind of finish that I want. We're going to start that way. So I just tap it out just a little bit. Okay. If I were doing a rounded handle, then I would skip this part. Keep my lug round. All right, now up here at the top of the lug where I'm going to attach it, I want to use my fettling knife and cut a diagonal. And it doesn't matter which direction. After I've cut my diagonal, I like to take the handle and I kind of tap it out. I want to spread this out a little bit to give my fingers some space to smear it into my mug. So I'm kind of creating like this extra wide lip that is going to allow me to smear into my mug. Okay. Once I've tapped that out, then I'm going to score it. You're going to be putting a lot of pressure on this joint, on this connection, so really make sure you have strong score marks I use just a fingertip of water to help attach it. And that angle that you cut, when you attach it, you want to attach it so the lug is shooting up, okay? Not down. That's not going to give you a good curve for a mug. So we want it to be up. And this is where you need to spend some time. This attachment is very important. So I am really going to press this lug of clay into my cylinder. And I'm going to make sure that these two pieces have bonded. Now, some aesthetic decisions that you can make is some people really like having kind of that line, or another option is to get that all smoothed in. Either way is fine. It's personal aesthetic and how you like it to look. Okay, once you feel that it's well attached, and you're not really going to be able to go back and make any adjustments, so you really have to be satisfied with how it is joined before you start pulling the handle. I teach pulled handles because they're extremely common. For functional pottery, they're probably the most common. They're very comfortable, and aesthetically, it's nice because it looks like the handle is literally kind of just growing right out of the side of the cup. Okay, so I've got it well attached. The next part is using a full bucket of water and gravity. We're going to use water and gravity to make this lug of clay not only get a lot longer, but thinner and extremely flexible. That's what we're going for. So I just start off by kind of completely dipping the lug and saturating the entire thing. I've told you before how water weakens clay. Well, here's a good example how this will weaken the clay, but you will be using it to your advantage. Okay, so with very wet hand, what I'm going to do is kind of with my thumb and my finger, I'm going to be applying some pressure, squeezing the lug, and sliding down it. Okay. Now, here's the trick. I do about 3 or 4 pulls, is what it's called, and then I twist it. And I do 3 or 4 pulls from this direction, and then I twist. If you do not continue to rotate, you will have an extremely crooked handle. That's the trick. You can see that it's getting thinner, it's getting longer, and it takes some time. You have to be patient, learning that perfect amount of pressure, and it also depends upon your lug. If your lug is very, very soft, wet clay, then you don't need to apply very much pressure. But this clay was a little bit older, a little bit drier, and so it needs to be worked. Always watch your connection, make sure it's not being pulled off. And if I had to describe it, I'm not pulling that hard at all. I'm more just kind of weakening it with water. Notice I'm always dipping my hand in there. Okay. So I'm going to do a few more. So I tell my students, you know, it should be extremely loose and wiggly to know that it's ready, okay? And once it's ready, All you want to do, you don't want to touch this and leave a bunch of fingerprints. You want to just kind of hold on to the tip, and you're going to turn the mug. And then you're just going to let this handle kind of fall right into place. That's how you get that natural, perfect curve. I landed right on those score marks that I made, and now I'm just going to apply some pressure and smooth it in. The trick to a pulled handle is to not have to go back and mess with it. It's so wet, and you really will mess it up if you try to get in there and change the shape. So technically, once I smooth this in, I want to just be able to call it done. You'll sign the bottom, and you'll put it on the to-be-fired cart. And that's how to do a ribbon handle.